When Roman soldiers finally breached Masada after a brutal siege, they expected a desperate last stand. Instead, they found only silence and the bodies of the defenders. The fortress, once defiant, had fallen in the most haunting way imaginable. Nearly 1,000 rebels had chosen death over slavery, leaving the Romans with a victory that felt hollow and unsettling. Imagine being a Roman legionary, sword drawn, charging into what should have been a final battle, only to find a ghost town. This was not just a military conquest, but a profound statement of human will and defiance. The silence that greeted the Romans was louder than any battle cry, a message that would echo through history. How did it come to this? To understand, we must go back and uncover the story of Masada, its people, and the empire determined to crush them. Join me as we unravel the epic saga of Masada. Long before Masada became a rebel stronghold, it was Herod the Great's desert masterpiece, a palace fortress built for both luxury and survival. Herod, known for his grand ambitions and relentless drive, envisioned a sanctuary that would stand the test of time and the harshness of the Judean wilderness. Perched atop sheer cliffs, Herod's engineers transformed the barren mountain into a marvel. 2 palaces, Roman-style bathhouses, and breathtaking views of the Dead Sea. The site was chosen not just for its beauty, but for its natural defenses, making it nearly impossible for enemies to approach undetected. Herod's paranoia drove him to create a fortress that could withstand any siege, with massive storehouses and a sophisticated water system capturing rare desert rains. Every stone was placed with purpose, every wall designed to repel invaders and protect those within. The cisterns alone could hold millions of gallons, ensuring survival even in the harshest conditions. Ingenious channels carved into the rock funneled every precious drop of rainwater into these vast reservoirs. When the Jewish rebels arrived decades later, they found not a ruin, but a fully stocked, nearly impregnable sanctuary. The supplies left behind by Herod's vision offered hope and a fighting chance for survival. Herod's quest for security had unwittingly set the stage for the final act of the Great Jewish Revolt. The fortress, once a symbol of royal excess, would soon become a beacon of resistance and tragedy. The storehouses brimmed with food, the cisterns with water, and the walls stood strong. Every detail of Herod's design would now be tested in the crucible of history. What was once a symbol of royal power was about to become a symbol of desperate resistance. The fate of hundreds would be decided within these ancient walls. Masada was the ultimate sanctuary, and as history would show, the ultimate trap. Its isolation, once its greatest strength, would soon become its greatest curse. The stage was set for a dramatic confrontation, one that would echo through the ages as a testament to courage, sacrifice, and the enduring human spirit. The defenders of Masada were the Sicarii, radical Jewish rebels named for their signature daggers and ruthless tactics. They emerged during the Great Jewish Revolt, a time of heavy Roman oppression and religious tension. The Sicarii seized Masada early in the conflict, turning it into their stronghold. As the Romans crushed the revolt and destroyed Jerusalem, the Sicarii, led by Eleazar ben Yair, refused to surrender. Fewer than 1,000 men, women, and children made Masada their last refuge, determined to live free or die trying. From their mountain fortress, they watched as Judea fell under Roman control. Isolated but unbroken, they became the last pocket of resistance. The Romans would not tolerate this defiance for long. Masada's defenders were no longer just assassins, they were a society in exile, facing impossible odds. The final confrontation was inevitable. Rome sent its best, the 10th Legion, veterans of Jerusalem's destruction, to crush Masada's last rebels. Led by Governor Lucius Flavius Silva, the Romans knew a direct assault was impossible. Instead, they launched a classic siege, encircling the mountain with a massive stone wall and 8 fortified camps. The defenders, trapped atop their plateau, watched as thousands of soldiers settled in for the long haul. The psychological pressure was immense. The Sicarii could see the full might of Rome arrayed below, a constant reminder of their isolation. The Romans' message was clear. There would be no escape. The siege was a slow, methodical strangulation, designed to break the rebels' will. Yet, the defenders held out, their supplies and spirit unbroken. For the Romans, the fall of Masada was only a matter of time. But time was running out for both sides. The stage was set for a test of endurance, ingenuity, and resolve. The final act was about to begin. The siege began as a waiting game. The Romans hoped to starve the defenders into submission, but Masada's storehouses and cisterns, thanks to Herod, were full. The rebels, led by Eleazar, watched as their fortress became a prison, the Roman siege wall tightening around them. The Romans soon realized that attrition wouldn't work. The defenders could hold out for years. Frustrated, Governor Silva knew he needed a new plan. Scaling the cliffs was suicide. The defenders could easily repel any direct assault. The psychological advantage began to shift as the rebels taunted the Romans from above. Rome's patience was wearing thin and the cost of the siege was mounting. The answer? An audacious feat of engineering. If they couldn't go up the mountain, they'd build a way up. The Romans would attempt the impossible, construct a massive siege ramp. The fate of Masada would be decided by ingenuity and determination. The most dramatic phase of the siege was about to unfold. Life atop Masada was a testament to the Sicaris' resilience. They organized a functioning society, rationed supplies, and maintained their faith and morale. The defenders harassed the Romans with slings and arrows, a constant reminder that they would not surrender quietly. As the Romans began building their siege ramp, the Sicarii responded with ingenuity. Behind the main wall, they constructed a second, inner wall, wooden and earth-filled, to absorb the blows of the battering ram. This flexible barrier was a brilliant counter to Roman siege tactics. Every act of resistance, every stone thrown, was a statement. Masada would not fall easily. The Romans laboring below faced not just a physical fortress, but a community determined to fight with every resource at their disposal. The defenders' creativity bought them precious time, but the ramp kept rising, and the end drew near. The final confrontation was inevitable. The Romans' answer to Masada's formidable defenses was nothing short of monumental. A massive siege ramp constructed on the mountain's western side, designed to overcome the seemingly unassailable fortress. This ambitious project would become one of the most impressive feats of military engineering in the ancient world. Thousands of laborers, including many Jewish prisoners captured during earlier campaigns, toiled relentlessly under the scorching desert sun. Day after day, they moved earth and stone, slowly building an artificial mountain that would allow the Roman army to reach the fortress walls. From atop the fortress, the besieged defenders watched helplessly as the ramp inched ever closer, a constant reminder of the inevitable threat looming below. Each sunrise brought the Romans' work nearer to completion. The Romans shielded their workers with large wooden coverings and overlapping shields, forming protective barriers against a hail of arrows and stones hurled from above. Despite the defenders' desperate efforts, the construction pressed on, undeterred and unstoppable. After months of relentless effort and sacrifice, the ramp was finally complete, over 300 feet high and wide enough to support the weight of the Romans' formidable siege towers and heavy equipment. With the ramp in place, the Romans rolled a massive ironclad siege tower up its steep incline, a battering ram poised at the front, ready to breach the fortress walls and bring the siege to its climax. The first wall crumbled quickly under the relentless assault, but the defenders had prepared a second inner wall, one that absorbed the blows and held firm, if only for a little while longer. In a final act of desperation, the Romans set the wooden inner wall ablaze, hoping to force a breakthrough where brute force had failed. At first, the wind turned the flames back toward the attackers, threatening to thwart the Roman plan. But then, as if fate intervened, the wind shifted direction, and the fire roared through the defenders' last barrier, sealing their fate. With the final barrier destroyed, the Romans assembled for the assault, preparing to storm the fortress and claim victory after a long and grueling siege. Inside the fortress, the defenders braced themselves for the inevitable. The end was at hand, and the fate of Masada would soon be decided. Masada's legendary last stand was about to unfold, a moment that would echo through history as a symbol of resistance and sacrifice. As the flames consumed their last defense, Eleazar ben Yair gathered his people for a final, agonizing decision. The night air was thick with fear and sorrow, as families clung to each other, knowing what was to come. In the flickering firelight, the weight of their fate pressed down on every soul. Facing certain death or enslavement, the defenders chose to die free. Their resolve was unbreakable, even as hope faded with the coming dawn. They looked out over the cliffs, making peace with their fate. According to Josephus, Eleazar urged his followers to take their own lives rather than submit to Rome. He spoke of honor, of faith, and of the freedom that could not be taken by force. His words echoed through the stone halls, stirring courage in the hearts of the weary. The men killed their families, then each other, drawing lots until only one remained. It was a grim ritual carried out with heavy hearts, but with a sense of purpose that transcended fear. That last man took his own life, leaving the Romans to find only silence and the dead. The fortress, once alive with hope and resistance, was now a tomb of heroes. Only 2 women and 5 children survived, hiding in the water conduits to tell the tale. Their voices would carry the memory of Masada's final night to the world beyond its walls. The Romans, expecting a fierce battle, found only tragedy and a haunting message of defiance. The silence that greeted them was more powerful than any resistance they had faced. The food stores were left untouched, a final statement that they had not been starved into submission. The defenders had chosen their own fate, denying the Romans the satisfaction of conquest through hunger. The story of Masada's end would echo through history, a symbol of ultimate resistance. Its cliffs would stand as a silent witness to the courage and sacrifice of those who perished. The Romans were left not with triumph, but with awe at the defenders' resolve. Even the conquerors could not help but respect the spirit that refused to be broken. Masada had fallen, but its spirit endured. The legend was born, inspiring generations to remember the price of freedom and the power of defiance. The fall of Masada ended the Great Jewish Revolt and cemented Roman control over Judea. For centuries, Masada's story survived through Josephus's writings, part history, part legend. In the 1960s, archaeological excavations confirmed much of the tale, reviving Masada as a symbol of courage and sacrifice. Today, Masada stands as one of Israel's most powerful national symbols, a testament to the fight for freedom against impossible odds. The phrase "Masada shall not fall again" became a vow, linking modern defenders to their ancient counterparts. Yet Masada's legacy is complex. Some see heroism, others see tragedy or fanaticism. The debate over its meaning continues, inviting reflection on freedom, faith, and the choices made in desperate times. Masada's story endures because it speaks to timeless human struggles. Whether seen as heroism or warning, its power is undeniable, a silent monument to one of history's most epic last stands. For more stories from the ancient world, subscribe and join us on the next journey.